Hey everyone, thanks for stopping by. If you enjoy this story, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe for more. Trust me, you'll want to stick around for this one. I'm sitting in my tiny apartment, scrolling through my phone when a text pops up from my cousin Vanessa. It's a photo of her standing in front of a massive house with the caption, "Finally living the dream." I stare at the image for a moment, feeling a weird mix of happiness and something else I can't quite name. Vanessa and I grew up together, almost like sisters. But somewhere along the way, things changed between us. She became obsessed with status and appearances, while I stayed quiet, focused on my own path. I typed back a simple congrats and set my phone down. Little does she know, that house she's bragging about? I'm the one who made it possible. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Let me back up and tell you how we got here. Growing up, Vanessa was always the star. She had the looks, the charm, the confidence that made everyone gravitate toward her. I was the opposite. Shy, bookish, always in the background. Our families were close, so we spent every holiday and birthday together. At first, I didn't mind being in her shadow. I was proud of her accomplishments. But as we got older, her success became a weapon she used against me. She'd make little comments about my clothes, my job, my apartment. "Still living in that shoebox," she'd say with a laugh. Or, "When are you going to get a real career?" It stung every time, but I never fought back. I just smiled and changed the subject. Meanwhile, I was quietly building something she knew nothing about. After college, I landed a job at a small investment firm. It wasn't glamorous, but I loved it. I spent my days analyzing markets, studying trends, learning everything I could about wealth management. While Vanessa posted photos of designer bags and expensive brunches, I was reinvesting every spare dollar I earned. I lived frugally, secondhand furniture, home-cooked meals, a car that was older than me. People thought I was struggling, but the truth was, I was building a portfolio that would change my life. By the time I turned 30, I had quietly amassed over $10 million in assets. Nobody knew. Not my parents, not my friends, and definitely not Vanessa. I liked it that way. Money was my secret garden, a place where I felt powerful and in control. Vanessa, on the other hand, lived loud. She worked in marketing and made decent money, but she spent every cent trying to keep up appearances. Her Instagram was a highlight reel of luxury vacations, 5-star restaurants, and designer everything. She thrived on the attention, the likes, the comments telling her how perfect her life looked. But I knew the truth. She was drowning in debt, maxing out credit cards to fund a lifestyle she couldn't afford. I'd heard whispers from family members about her financial struggles, but Vanessa would never admit it. To her, image was everything. And I was the cautionary tale, the cousin who never made it. If only she knew what I was really doing behind the scenes. One Thanksgiving, things came to a head. Our whole family gathered at my aunt's house for dinner. Vanessa arrived late as usual, making a grand entrance in a new designer coat. She hugged everyone, flashing her perfect smile, then turned to me. "Oh, Alex," she said, loud enough for everyone to hear. "Still driving that ancient car?" I saw it in the driveway. "You really need an upgrade." The room went quiet. I felt my cheeks burn as everyone stared at me. My mom tried to change the subject, but Vanessa kept going. "I mean, you work in finance, right? Shouldn't you be doing better by now?" I forced a smile and said, "I'm doing fine, thanks." But inside, I was seething. That night, I made a decision. I wasn't going to let her humiliate me anymore. It was time to show her who I really was. A few months later, Vanessa called me out of the blue. Her voice was shaky, almost desperate. "Alex, I need your help," she said. I could hear the panic beneath her words. She explained that she'd been trying to buy a house for months, but her credit score was too low. Banks kept rejecting her applications. She'd found her dream home, a beautiful property in an upscale neighborhood, but she couldn't qualify for the mortgage. "I know you're good with money stuff," she said. "Do you think you could co-sign for me? Just this once." I paused, letting the silence stretch. Part of me wanted to say no, to let her face the consequences of her reckless spending. But another part of me saw an opportunity. "Let me think about it," I said finally. "I'll get back to you." I spent the next week weighing my options. Co-signing a loan for Vanessa was risky. If she defaulted, I'd be on the hook for the payments. But then an idea formed in my mind. What if I didn't just co-sign? What if I bought the house outright and let her live there? She'd never have to know I owned it. I could structure it so she thought she was making mortgage payments to the bank, when really she'd be paying me. It was a gamble, but it would also give me leverage. And if she ever found out the truth, well, that would be the ultimate reveal. I called Vanessa back and told her I'd help. She screamed with excitement, thanking me over and over. I just smiled and said, "That's what family's for." The paperwork moved quickly. I worked with a real estate attorney to set everything up discreetly. The deed would be in my name, but Vanessa would sign a rental agreement disguised as a mortgage contract. She had no idea. To her, it looked like a standard home loan. She was so focused on finally getting her dream house that she didn't ask too many questions. The day she got the keys, she posted a dozen photos online. "Homeowner at last," she captioned one picture. The comments poured in, congratulations, heart emojis, people saying how proud they were of her. I liked the post and moved on. Meanwhile, I quietly transferred the funds and became the official owner of a $500,000 property. Vanessa had no clue I was her landlord. For the next year, everything seemed fine. Vanessa made her monthly payments on time, and I deposited them into a separate account. She threw housewarming parties, redecorated every room, and posted endless photos of her perfect life. At family gatherings, she'd brag about her house, dropping hints about how successful she was. And every time, she'd glance at me with a smug look, as if to say, "See? I made it and you didn't." I'd just nod and sip my drink, biting my tongue. My parents would sometimes ask me when I was going to buy a place of my own. Soon, I'd say vaguely. They had no idea I already owned multiple properties, including the one Vanessa was living in. The secret was almost too delicious to keep. Then one Sunday afternoon, I got a frantic call from Vanessa. "Alex, something's wrong with the paperwork," she said, her voice tight with panic. "I was trying to refinance, and the bank said the deed isn't in my name. They said it belongs to someone else. Do you know anything about this?" My heart skipped a beat. This was the moment I'd been both dreading and anticipating. I took a deep breath and said, "Vanessa, we need to talk. Can you meet me for coffee?" There was a long pause. "Fine," she said coldly. "Tomorrow at noon." I hung up and stared at my phone, adrenaline rushing through my veins. The truth was about to come out, and I had no idea how she'd react. Part of me felt guilty, but another part felt a strange sense of satisfaction. She was about to learn who I really was. We met at a quiet cafe downtown. Vanessa was already there when I arrived, arms crossed, jaw tight. She didn't say hello, just glared at me as I sat down. "Explain," she demanded. I ordered a coffee, taking my time, letting the tension build. Then I looked her in the eye and said, "The house is mine, Vanessa. I bought it. You've been paying rent to me this whole time." Her face went pale. "What?" she whispered. I explained everything. The deal I'd set up, the rental agreement disguised as a mortgage, the fact that I'd been the one funding her dream life all along. She stared at me like I'd just spoken a foreign language. "Why would you do this?" she asked, her voice shaking. I leaned back in my chair and said, "Because you needed help, and I could afford to give it. But you were so busy looking down on me, you never stopped to ask how I was really doing." Vanessa's shock quickly turned to anger. "You lied to me," she hissed. "You let me believe I was a homeowner when I was just renting from you this whole time." I stayed calm, keeping my voice steady. "I never lied, Vanessa. You assumed. You were so desperate to prove you were successful that you didn't read the fine print. And honestly, you spent years making me feel small. Maybe this was my way of leveling the playing field." She stood up, knocking her chair back. "You're unbelievable," she spat. "I can't believe I trusted you." She stormed out of the cafe, leaving me sitting there alone. I felt a strange mix of relief and sadness. The truth was out, but our relationship might be over. Still, I couldn't bring myself to regret it. She needed to know who I really was. For the next few weeks, Vanessa refused to speak to me. She ignored my calls and texts, blocked me on social media, and told our family that I betrayed her. My parents called, confused and concerned. "What happened between you two?" my mom asked. I explained the situation as calmly as I could. There was a long silence on the other end. Then my dad said, "Alex, why didn't you tell us you had that kind of money?" I sighed. "Because I didn't want it to change how you saw me. I just wanted to live my life without all the pressure and expectations." My mom said she understood, but I could hear the hurt in her voice. I realized that keeping secrets, even for good reasons, had consequences. I'd protected myself, but I'd also isolated myself from the people I loved. Meanwhile, Vanessa's financial situation was unraveling. Without the option to refinance, she was stuck with the payment plan I'd set up. But more than that, her carefully constructed image was crumbling. People in our family started asking questions. How did Alex afford to buy a house for Vanessa? What else had I been hiding? The whispers spread, and Vanessa hated it. She built her entire identity on being the successful one, and now everyone knew she needed my help. One night, my aunt called me. "Vanessa's really struggling," she said gently. "I think she's embarrassed more than anything. Maybe you two should talk." I agreed, but I wasn't sure Vanessa would be willing. Still, I decided to reach out one more time. I sent her a simple text. "Can we talk? Please." To my surprise, Vanessa agreed to meet. This time, we met at a park near her house. She looked tired, like she hadn't been sleeping well. We sat on a bench in silence for a few minutes before she finally spoke. "I've been thinking a lot about what you said," she began. "And you're right. I was so caught up in trying to look successful that I lost sight of what really mattered. I'm sorry for the way I treated you, Alex. You didn't deserve that." Her apology caught me off guard. I'd expected more anger, more blame. Instead, she seemed genuinely remorseful. "I'm sorry too," I said. "I should have been honest with you from the start. I just wanted to help, but I also wanted you to see me differently." She nodded slowly. "I see you now," she said quietly. "And I'm realizing I don't even know who you really are." Over the next few months, Vanessa and I started to rebuild our relationship. It wasn't easy. There was a lot of hurt and mistrust to work through. But slowly, we began to talk more openly. I told her about my investments, my philanthropic work, the life I'd built in secret. She listened, sometimes in disbelief, sometimes with genuine curiosity. "Why didn't you ever tell me?" she asked one day. I shrugged. "Because I didn't want to be defined by my money. I wanted people to see me for who I am, not what I have." She nodded, understanding dawning in her eyes. "I think I've been doing the opposite," she admitted. "I've been so focused on what I have, or what I want people to think I have, that I forgot who I am underneath all of it." It was a breakthrough moment for both of us. Vanessa started making changes in her life. She cut back on her spending, deleted some of her social media accounts, and focused on paying down her debt. She even started seeing a therapist to work through her issues with self-worth and validation. I was proud of her. It took courage to admit she'd been living a lie and even more courage to change. Meanwhile, I continued my work, investing in projects I believed in and supporting causes that mattered to me. But I also made an effort to be more open with my family. I invited my parents over to see my real apartment, a spacious loft in a nice part of town. They were shocked. "You've been living here this whole time?" my mom asked, looking around in amazement. I nodded. I just wanted to keep things simple. One evening, Vanessa called me with an idea. "I want to start over," she said. "I want to sell the house and find something smaller, something I can actually afford on my own. Would you be okay with that?" I thought about it for a moment. The house had been my safety net, my leverage, but it had also been a source of tension between us. "If that's what you want, I support you," I said. She sighed with relief. "Thank you, Alex. I know I don't deserve your help after everything, but I really appreciate it." We listed the house a few weeks later. It sold quickly, and after paying off her debts, Vanessa had enough left over for a down payment on a modest condo. She was genuinely happy, maybe for the first time in years. And I was happy for her. The sale of the house marked a turning point for both of us. Vanessa moved into her new place and started fresh. She got a new job, one that paid less but gave her more fulfillment. She stopped comparing herself to others and started focusing on her own happiness. As for me, I continued to grow my portfolio, but I also made an effort to be more present in my relationships. I realized that keeping secrets had protected me, but it had also kept me isolated. I started opening up to friends, sharing more about my life and my work. It felt vulnerable, but it also felt freeing. And my relationship with Vanessa? It was better than it had ever been. We talked regularly, supported each other, and even laughed about the whole house situation. One day, Vanessa invited me over to her new condo for dinner. She cooked a simple meal, nothing fancy, and we sat on her small balcony watching the sunset. "I've been thinking," she said, swirling her wine glass. "I spent so many years trying to be someone I wasn't. I thought success meant having the biggest house, the best car, the most followers. But none of that made me happy. You know what does? This. Sitting here with you, not pretending to be anything I'm not." I smiled. "I'm glad you figured that out," I said. She looked at me seriously. "I'm also glad you called me out. I needed that wake-up call. Thank you for not giving up on me." I reached over and squeezed her hand. "That's what family's for," I said, echoing the words I told her a year ago. This time, I meant them in a completely different way. A few months later, I decided to do something I'd been thinking about for a while. I set up a foundation to help people like Vanessa, people who were struggling financially but too proud to ask for help. The foundation offered financial literacy classes, debt counseling, and small grants to help people get back on their feet. Vanessa was one of the first people I told about it. "That's amazing, Alex," she said, her eyes shining. "Can I help? I'd love to volunteer or share my story if it would help others." I was touched by her offer. "I'd love that," I said. And so, Vanessa became one of the foundation's first ambassadors, sharing her journey from debt and pretense to financial freedom and authenticity. People responded to her honesty, and the foundation started to grow. Looking back, I realized that the whole situation with Vanessa taught me something important. Money is powerful, but it's not everything. What matters more is how you use it and who you share your life with. I'd spent years hiding my success because I was afraid of how people would see me. But in doing so, I'd also hidden myself. Vanessa, on the other hand, had spent years flaunting a success she didn't really have, and it nearly destroyed her. We were two sides of the same coin, both struggling with our relationship to money and identity. But through our conflict and eventual reconciliation, we both learned to be more authentic. And that, I think, was worth more than any house or investment portfolio. These days, life is good. Vanessa and I are closer than we've ever been. She's thriving in her new life, and I'm continuing to build my foundation and grow my investments. I still live simply, but I'm no longer hiding who I am. I've learned to be proud of my accomplishments without needing to broadcast them. And Vanessa has learned that true success isn't about what you own or what people think of you. It's about living authentically and being at peace with yourself. Our family has noticed the change in both of us. My parents are proud, and our other relatives have stopped comparing us. We're just Alex and Vanessa now, two cousins who went through something difficult and came out stronger on the other side. Last week, Vanessa and I met for coffee again. This time, there was no tension, no hidden agendas. We just talked and laughed like old times. "Remember when you told me the house was yours?" she said, grinning. "I thought I was going to pass out right there in the cafe." I laughed. "I was terrified you'd never speak to me again." She shook her head. "Honestly, it was the best thing that ever happened to me. I needed that reality check. I was living a lie, and I didn't even realize it." I smiled. We both were in our own ways. She raised her coffee cup. "To be real," she said. I clinked my cup against hers. "To be real," I echoed. And in that moment, I felt truly content. The secret was out, the truth had set us both free, and we were finally able to be ourselves. So that's my story. The cousin who mocked my cheap lifestyle, who thought I was a failure, who had no idea I was the one holding the deed to her dream house. It wasn't about revenge or proving her wrong. It was about standing up for myself and showing her, and myself, that success looks different for everyone. I don't regret buying that house or keeping it a secret. It taught both of us valuable lessons about money, pride, and what really matters in life. And now, we're both in a better place because of it. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like and subscribe for more. Thanks for listening, and remember, never judge someone by what you see on the surface. You never know what they're hiding underneath.